An evangelist is preaching in a large stadium, and he goes like this. You think it doesn't thrill me to have this boy at the crusade? Come here, sonny boy. You think it doesn't thrill me and Mrs. Marshall that our daughter is married to the biggest businessman in New York City? All right, so I'm bragging. Hallelujah. The story I've heard is true. Names were changed to protect the innocent. It is very easy to slip into boasting. As we continue our series on what love looks like, today we focus on the fact that love does not boast. As we follow the scheme we have been using, we define our terms, what is boasting, why it's undesirable, and thirdly, how to avoid it in our lives. So first of all, what is boasting? When you boast, you speak about or put forward your achievements or attributes or possessions in a way that calls attention to yourself. When you boast, you are saying, look at me. Look at what I have. Look at what I've done. I remember seeing a new SUV, driving down the road, and the words written on it, look, Catherine. I'm picking on you, Catherine. It's not you. But you understand what I'm trying to say. It's all about boasting. The Bible says this very clearly, Proverbs 27, verse 2, let another praise thee, and not thine own mouth. Do not in any way be a boaster. So why is boasting such a bad thing? You might ask the question, what's so wrong about boasting? And in fact, in today's society of social media, you're encouraged to boast. You may recall YouTube when it came on board. What was its slogan? Broadcast yourself. And the various platforms we have encourage us to put our lives on display. Look at how wonderful I am. Well, let's start by saying this. Boasting is a reflection of pride. And if we go back to our previous series, What God Hates, the first thing on the list is pride. Let me give two reasons for saying that boasting reflects pride. First of all, it is rooted in feelings of superiority. When you boast, you lift yourself up and at the same time put others down. When you boast, you're saying subtly or not so subtly, I am better than you. Two examples from the Bible. One is Goliath, 1 Samuel 17, 8 to 10. He was bigger and stronger than anybody in Israel. He felt superior and he called for a duel. Give me a man to fight. If he beats me, we serve you. If I beat him, you serve us. And of course, he was sure there was nobody in Israel who could beat him. So he says, I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together. 1 Samuel 17, verse 10. And for 40 days, he would strut out before Israel and say, give me a man. But in time, beloved, God gave him a man called David. Be careful what you ask God for, If pride motivates you when you're asking, you will not like what you get. For God is not mocked. What a man sows, that he will reap. Goliath was a boaster. Give me a man. Second example, the Pharisee at prayer. Luke 18:9-14. Here's how he starts off. God, I thank you. I am not as other men. So right away, he's superior. He then lists all their faults. They're unjust, adulterers, and he goes on. And he says, even as this publican who is here praying next to me. Then he lists his virtues. I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all I possess. So he's saying out of this, I am better. Of course, God saw things differently. The publican, he asked for mercy and went home justified. The Pharisee went home empty. Empty, the empty boaster. You see, when you lift yourself up and put other people down, that cannot be love. We must learn to recognize boasting when we see it among us as God's people. So, brother, keep saying, all my children are in fellowship. And by saying that often, he's putting on those people whose children may not be in the church. Let me tell you a secret, beloved. Being in fellowship doesn't necessarily mean that people are saved. Some apply pressure and get the children in the church, but sometimes they're not saved. So don't watch too much, not too much. How else can somebody boast? You come on Facebook and you say, I am thanking God that my son got all A's in his exam. And I wonder, had he got B's, would you on Facebook thanking God? That's the question. Am I thanking God or telling you he got A's? Or a brother will let you know every time he did not go to Bible school. Underline that is the thought, I am as good as or better than some people who have gone to Bible school. And people who talk like this ignore some things, you know. They might ignore the fact they have developed study skills based on their profession. Sometimes the job you do would help you to know how to study. You know what else to forget? That the books that they use are written by people who went to Bible school. So you didn't go to Bible school, but it came to you. But you boast, I didn't go to Bible school. I'm better than you who went to Bible school. That is boasting and must be rejected. Secondly, boasting is rooted in self-sufficiency. The boastful person says, I am enough. I am enough. Again, it comes from the Bible. Daniel 4:30, Nebuchadnezzar. Then the king spoke and said, is not this great Babylon that I have built by the might of my power for the honor of my majesty? Somehow he managed to forget the vision he had. That interpreted for him. The vision he had of the statue, gold at the top, silver chest area, then bronze and iron, and iron mixed with bronze. The statue was toppled by a stone. And then I told him what the vision meant. He said to him, thou, O king, art the King of kings. For the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wherever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thy hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art the son of God. So he said, God gave you these things. He made you the ruler. But now he is saying, I have done this by my power. And you know what God did? He made him eat grass till he came to understand who in fact is ruling. And here's what he said. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all whose works are truth and his ways justice. And those that walk in pride, he's able to abase. He came to understand who is really God, who's in charge. God brought him down that he could understand it. Second example is the rich fool. Luke 12, verse 16 to 21. This man had a bumper crop. He got a lot of stuff, the ground got plentifully. Maybe he thought it was his skill that enabled him to do so well. So that's the man. You won the competition? All right. Some skill was there, I think, yes. But ultimately, God did it. But this man thought, he did it. So he sits down and has a one-man board meeting. I will pull down my barns and build greater. And there will I bestow all my crops and my goods. I will say to my soul, soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Take thine ease, eat, drink, and be merry. Here's a man in total control of everything. He has goods for many days. And God says, fool, because tonight, I require your soul. You see, he forgot something, that God determines how long we stay here. He sets the boundaries. But this man thought he was in charge. Notice in the text, often he says, I and my. And when you see I and my on the place, it's a reflection of pride. I, it's all about me. So again, just keep your eyes open and recognize when people speak in a way that say they are self-sufficient. For example, I beat my chest and say, I am a self-made man. What am I forgetting first of all? It is God who gave me the strength to work and earn something. Deuteronomy 8, verse 18. What else might I forget? The many people who helped me along the way. The man who backed my first loan for me. Or my customers in the early days of my business. You see, you can't run a business if you don't have clients. You understand? People have to support you. But somebody, we forget that. No man is an island. We are all interdependent. So they say, oh, I'm self-made. They forget the people who helped along the way. I remember the taxi driver once was saying loudly, God didn't help me. I helped myself. And I smiled. You know why? I know whose car he used to learn to drive. It was a minister's car. But God didn't help him. He helped himself. It seems to me, beloved, that boastful people are forgetful people. It's no wonder that God kept saying to Israel, remember, remember, remember. Don't forget where we came from. Then we can be boasting. If right now you're at the top of something, remember how you got there. And don't boast. Don't boast. So the question comes to us, how can we rise above boasting? And we keep saying this, it's by the Spirit of God. Because boasting is a natural thing. That's the flesh. Loves to lift itself up. So it's time to submit to God's Spirit that we can live a life that would rise above boasting. So number one, to avoid feeling superior, focus on this fact that whatever you have has come from God. 1 Corinthians 4 verse 7. For who makes you to differ from anyone else? And what do you have you did not receive? If you didn't receive it, why do you boast as though you did not? You see, if I understand this, that my great gift I have has come to me from God, I can't look on somebody else who is not so gifted. You see, if I understand God has gifted me, the right response is thanksgiving, not boasting. Don't speak of your gift as if somehow it came from you. It was a sovereign act of grace. God gives gifts severally as he wills, separately. To each person gets something as God wills. And you know what? God has given my gift to anybody else he chose to give it to. And so there's no place for boasting because of giftedness. When you learn to give thanks, boasting is excluded. I'm going to submit to you. You cannot be thankful and boast at the same time. You want to try it? See if it can work? It's not going to work. To avoid feeling self-sufficient, here's what you ought to do. Focus on this fact that without God, we are nothing. Now, the Bible consistently says this, that it's about God, not about us. So if you think you are enough, you haven't heard God's word, or you're ignoring it. Because clearly, God is saying, I am enough. God is enough, not you. Let's get 3 reasons for understanding that we're not enough. Number one, our salvation depends totally on God. Ephesians 2:8-9. For by grace are you saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God. And in case you miss it, there it says, not of works, lest any man should boast. Not of works. It is good to give more than you take. It is good to fix more than you break, but that will not get you into heaven. I heard of a famous boxer who spent a whole day signing autographs for people. And when he was asked, why did he do this? I'm just trying to get to heaven. As far as he's concerned, anyone he signed, he was doing a good deed. And if he did all those good deeds, he would end up in heaven. Let's understand this. And every time we come and break bread on Sunday morning, we remind ourselves of this fact. That all being saved is based on the work of Christ on the cross, his suffering on our behalf. There's nothing to boast about. We are not enough. We need to give thanks. Salvation of the Lord. So we can't think we're enough. Secondly, our success in ministry depends on God. 1 Corinthians 3, verse 6. So when the Corinthians were running around their favorite preachers, and for Paul and for Apollos and for Cephas, Paul says, listen, Paul may plant, Apollos may water, but God gives the increase. It's God who gives the increase every time, not the evangelist. It's God. For you see, when we exercise our gifts, we have to do it depending on God. I can't say, God, I can preach, so I go and I just preach. I have to depend on God to water the water and bring forth fruit from it. That's what happened in 1 Peter 4, verse 11. Whatever we do it out of the strength that God gives. Why? So God in all things might be glorified. We have to understand without Him, we can do nothing. When you start thinking we can do it ourselves, we're in trouble. You remember Samson? He thought he could go out and shake himself. John 16, verse 20. Not realizing God had left him. Any success we achieve in ministry, it has come from God. We are only instruments. The glory is God's. The third thing is this. Why are we not enough? Our stay on earth depends on God. You know, some believe or behave as if they think they'll be here forever. But it's God who says to each person, so far and no further. You can't go 1 inch further unless God says you can. So the king who called for the vessels of the temple to drink wine from, and at night the handwrote on the wall, numbered and finished. He was told, the God of heaven, in whose hand your breath is, you have been glorified. You can't take one more breath unless God says you can. So you're not enough. So James says, don't make a plan for tomorrow and see what you're going to do. You say, if God will. And when I was growing up, they used to say, tomorrow, please God. We still say that in Wednesday, I don't know. I would just say tomorrow. We still say God will. Oh, good. Don't lose that. Because we don't have control. And if you understand this, we can't boast. Without God, we are nothing. So what have we learned in our brief study this morning? Boasting is a reflection of pride. It's the proud who boast. It is rooted in feeling superior. I am better than you. And in feeling self-sufficient. I am enough. I have all the answers. How we avoid boasting? Focus on these two things. Whatever I have, it has come from God. And without God, I am nothing. And once I understand these two things, I respond with thanksgiving. I thank God for what He has done in my life, what He has given me, and for keeping me up to this point. And as I think of this message, my key takeaway, if I'm listening to the message myself, is this. You cannot be thankful and boast at the same time. The two are not going to go together. So anytime you are tempted, things go well for you, and you feel, boy, let me brag about this. Pause and give thanks instead. It'll be like when light appears and darkness has to go. When you begin to give thanks, boasting has to go. And for me, it's my takeaway. Let me focus on giving thanks always. And as I give thanks, there's no place in my life for boasting. Make me so, for his name's sake.